When a woman keeps making mistakes and starts seeing you as the man who always forgives, she will go too far. Not necessarily because she is a bad person, but because human nature always tests boundaries. And when there are no boundaries, people keep pushing and pushing and pushing until one day they lose respect without even realizing it. The problem is that many men believe that too much patience is love, that constant forgiveness is kindness, and that staying no matter what is loyalty. But in relationships, there is a harsh truth. The person who is not afraid of losing you will never truly value you. She got used to you staying. She got used to you forgiving. She got used to you coming back. She got used to you explaining, getting upset, calming down, and still staying. And over time, she stopped seeing you as a man who could leave and started seeing you as a man who could never leave. But the moment you disappear suddenly, without a long fight, without threats, without lectures, without one last attempt to convince her, that's when the first stage of her psychological collapse begins. Because she never expected you to leave. She thought she was holding all the strings. She thought your feelings were a weakness, that your patience was just part of your nature, and that your presence in her life was guaranteed. But she didn't know one truth. When a man reaches his final limit, he doesn't scream, he doesn't beg, he doesn't threaten. He becomes completely calm, and then he disappears. And from that moment of disappearance, your story doesn't begin. Her 10 stages begin. The first stage she goes through when you disappear is shock and denial. Because in her mind, you are not the man who leaves. You are the man who gets upset, the man who argues, the man who walks away for a few hours or a few days and then comes back. That was the pattern she knew. That was the version of you she understood and felt comfortable with. So when you disappear for real, she doesn't believe it at first. She thinks this is just another one of your phases. She tells herself, he's just upset. He'll text in a day or two. He always comes back. And that's where denial begins. At first, she is not sad. She is not panicking. She is just confused. She keeps checking her phone, but not in fear, more in expectation. She expects your name to appear on her screen at any moment. She expects the apology message, the long paragraph, the emotional conversation, the usual cycle, but this time, nothing happens. Days start to pass, no message, no call, no reaction to her stories, no indirect posts, nothing. And slowly, confusion turns into shock, because now she starts realizing that something is different this time. You are not reacting, you are not chasing, you are not explaining. You are not trying to fix things, you are just gone, and your silence becomes scary. Not because silence itself is scary, but because it is unfamiliar. She was used to your reactions, your emotions, your messages, even your anger. But silence? Silence gives her nothing to hold on to. No clues, no emotions, no drama, just a wall she cannot see behind. This is when her mind starts racing. She starts asking herself questions. Did he really leave? Is he talking to someone else? Did I go too far? Why isn't he reacting? Why is he so calm? And these questions are the beginning of the psychological shift, because for the first time, she is not sure of her position anymore. For the first time, she does not feel in control of the situation. For the first time, she is the one who doesn't understand what is happening. Shock and denial is the stage where she still believes you will come back. But at the same time, she starts feeling that something is wrong. Something is different. Something is quiet. Something is ending. And that silence, your silence, is what creates the first crack in the image she had about you. The man who always comes back. After the shock comes silence. And after silence comes emptiness. Not the dramatic kind of emptiness people talk about in movies, but the quiet, uncomfortable emptiness that appears in small daily moments. The kind of emptiness that shows up in routines, in habits, in the little details she didn't realize were important until they disappeared. Because you were not just a man she talked to sometimes. You were part of her daily life. You were the good morning message, the random question about her day, the person she sends a photo to when something funny happens, the person she complains to when work is stressful, the person who asks if she got home safe, the small, consistent presence in her everyday life. And now, all of that is gone. No good morning message, no simple, "How was your day?" No attention, no reactions, no one checking on her in that quiet, consistent way. This is where the real absence begins. Because during the shock stage, she still expected you to come back. But in this stage, she starts to feel what life actually feels like without you in it. She starts picking up her phone sometimes, almost automatically, thinking about texting you something, then she remembers you are not there anymore. She might see something that reminds her of you, a place you went together, a joke you used to make, a song, a conversation topic, and for a brief moment, she feels that empty space again. This emptiness is very important because humans don't only miss people, they miss routines. They miss familiarity. They miss the person who was there in the background of their life, making things feel normal. You were part of her normal. And now, her normal has changed. At this stage, she may not text you yet. She may still act normal with her friends. She may still go out, laugh, and post photos. From the outside, everything looks fine. But internally, there is a quiet space that used to be filled by you. And the human mind does something very predictable when someone disappears and leaves a space behind. It starts filling that space with memories. She starts remembering the good conversations, the times you were there for her, the moments you made her feel understood, the times you were patient, the times you cared. And slowly, without you saying anything, without you doing anything, your value starts increasing in her mind, simply because you are no longer there. Presence is often underestimated, but absence always reveals value. And in this stage, the stage of emptiness, she is not running after you yet. She is not calling you yet. But she is starting to feel your absence everywhere, in her phone, in her routine, in her day, in the small moments no one else sees. And this is the moment where she begins to realize that you were not just another person in her life. You were a part of it. In the beginning, she pretends she doesn't care. She posts pictures. She goes out with her friends. She laughs, smiles, and acts normal. If someone asks about you, she might say, "It's nothing," or "We just stopped talking," or "I'm fine." From the outside, everything looks like she moved on very quickly. But what people see on the outside is often very different from what happens on the inside. Because while she is laughing with her friends, her mind keeps going back to one place: you. Curiosity starts to grow. Not love yet, not regret yet. Curiosity. And curiosity can be more powerful than both. She starts asking questions in her head. Where is he? What is he doing? Why hasn't he tried to contact me? Is he talking to someone else? Did he replace me? Was it really that easy for him to leave? These questions don't come all at once. They come slowly, usually late at night, or in quiet moments when she is alone and not distracted by friends, social media, or work. The problem with curiosity is that it has no clear answer. And when the human mind has no answers, it starts creating stories. She may start checking your social media. She may notice that you are online, but not texting her. She may notice that you posted something and didn't reach out. Every small detail becomes a message in her mind, even if you didn't intend it to be one. your silence becomes a mystery, and mystery creates obsession more than attention ever could. When you were always there, always texting, always explaining, she didn't have to think about you that much because you were always available, always visible, always predictable. But now, you are not predictable anymore. You are not reacting, you are not explaining, you are not chasing. And this is where curiosity becomes dangerous. For her, not for you. Because now, instead of you thinking about her, she starts thinking about you. Instead of you checking your phone waiting for her message, she might start checking to see if you viewed her story. Instead of you wondering what she is doing, she starts wondering what you are doing. The roles slowly begin to change. Curiosity is the stage where you are no longer present in her life physically, but you are very present in her mind. She may never tell anyone. She may act like she doesn't care. She may continue posting, going out, living her life, but in quiet moments, a question keeps coming back again and again. Why did he really leave? And why hasn't he come back? And that question, when it stays too long without an answer, turns curiosity into something much stronger. With time, the truth slowly begins to appear. At the beginning, there was shock, then emptiness, curiosity, but now comes the most dangerous stage, reflection. Because after a period of silence and distance, emotions calm down, ego becomes quieter, and the mind finally has space to think clearly. This is when she starts looking back at the relationship, not from the position of anger or pride, but from the position of memory. She starts remembering things differently. She remembers how many times you forgave her, how many times you ignored things that bothered you just to avoid problems, how many times you tried to fix the relationship when things were falling apart, how many times you were patient when she was difficult, how many times you stayed when most people would have left, and slowly, the picture in her mind begins to change. Before, in her mind, you were always the one who would stay no matter what. So she focused on your mistakes, your reactions, your moments of anger, your moments of distance. But now, with you gone and with silence everywhere, she starts remembering the things you did right, not the things you did wrong. Memory becomes selective, and distance often turns patience into value and effort into something rare. This is the stage where a very important question appears in her mind for the first time. Was I the reason this ended? This question is very heavy, because as long as she believed you left for your own reasons, she could blame you, be angry at you, and protect her ego. But the moment she starts thinking that maybe she pushed too far, maybe she made too many mistakes, maybe she didn't appreciate you enough, everything changes. Now it is no longer just a breakup or distance. Now it becomes regret. She starts replaying conversations in her head. She remembers moments where you were clearly hurt but stayed quiet. She remembers times you tried to talk and she ignored it. She remembers times you forgave quickly. She remembers the last argument, the last conversation, the last time you sounded tired instead of angry, and she starts connecting the dots. Regret does not come in one moment, it comes slowly, like a quiet realization that grows every day. And the hardest part about regret is that it usually comes when it is too late to fix things easily. In this stage, she is not just thinking about you anymore. She is thinking about what she did, what she said, what she ignored, and what she lost. Shock was about your disappearance. Emptiness was about your absence. Curiosity was about your life without her. But reflection and regret is about her life without you, and the possibility that she was the reason. This is where the big shift happens. The man who used to chase her is now far away. silent, unavailable, living his life without asking, without explaining, without trying. And this is very confusing for her because the dynamic has completely changed. She was used to being the one who decides when to talk, when to be cold, when to come closer, and when to pull away. But now, she is no longer in control of the distance between you. So one day, usually out of nowhere, she opens your old conversation. She scrolls up, she reads old messages, old jokes, old plans, old conversations that felt normal at the time but now feel important. She sees how you talk to her, how you cared, how present you were, and she sits there for a few minutes, just reading. Then she goes back down to the message box. She starts typing a message, maybe something long at first. Maybe she writes, "I've been thinking about you," or I know things ended in a weird way, or "I miss talking to you." Then she stops. She deletes the message. Her pride comes in. Her ego tells her not to look weak, not to look like she is chasing, not to look like she cares too much. So she tries to write something casual, something small, something that doesn't show too much emotion. She writes again, deletes again, writes again, deletes again. This small moment, writing and deleting, happens more than you think, because sending that first message means admitting that she noticed your absence, that she felt the distance, that she is the one reaching out now. And then finally, she writes the simplest message possible. "Hey, how are you?" A small message, but behind that small message is curiosity, ego, memories, emptiness, regret, and the fear that you might not answer the same way you used to. This is the moment where the roles start to reverse. Before, you were the one waiting for her reply. Now she is the one waiting for yours. Before, you were the one starting conversations. Now she is the one opening old chats. Before, you were afraid to lose her. Now she is not so sure she didn't lose you. Stage 5 is not about love yet. It is not even fully about regret. It is about something very important. She is starting to move towards you after you stopped moving towards her. At this stage, the biggest battle is not between you and her. It is inside her. On the outside, she looks strong. She lives her life, goes out, talks to people, posts photos, laughs, and acts like everything is normal. If someone asks her about you, she might say, "It's over," or "It just didn't work," or "I'm fine." And she might even believe that sometimes, but inside there is a quiet war happening. One part of her mind says, "I made the right decision. He wasn't perfect. We had problems. It wouldn't have worked anyway." This is the voice of the ego, the part that wants to protect her from feeling guilty, from feeling regret, from feeling like she lost something valuable. The ego always tries to make us feel that we are right, that we didn't lose, that we are still in control. But there is another voice, a quieter voice, and this voice is more honest. This voice whispers, "He was patient. He cared about me. He didn't leave the first time things got hard. He tried more than most people would. Maybe I pushed too far. Maybe I lost a good man." And this is where the internal conflict begins. She starts comparing you to other men she talks to, other men she sees, other men who try to approach her. And this comparison is very important, because when you were always there, she didn't compare. She just assumed you would always be there. But now, you are gone. And now, every new person is being compared to the memory of you. And memory usually becomes kinder with time. She remembers your patience more than your anger, your effort more than your mistakes, your presence more than your arguments. And slowly, the image of you in her mind becomes calmer, stronger, and more valuable than when you were actually there. This creates confusion inside her, because now she doesn't know what she feels exactly. Is she happier without you? Or Did she just get used to acting strong? Did she really want this distance? Or did she just never think you would actually leave? Internal conflict is one of the hardest stages because there is no clear answer. There is just thinking and remembering and comparing and wondering. On the outside, she may look completely fine, but on the inside, she is trying to answer one very uncomfortable question. Did I lose him, or did I let him go? When the direct attempts don't work, the games begin. By this stage, she may have already texted you once, tried to start a conversation, or tried to appear casual and normal with you, but if she feels that you are still distant, still calm, still not chasing like before, she may start using indirect ways to get your attention. Not always in a malicious way, and not always consciously planned, but as a psychological reaction to losing control of the situation. She might start posting more pictures, going out more, posting stories where she looks very happy, very social, very busy. She might post quotes about moving on, self-respect, or happiness. She might post songs with emotional lyrics. She might suddenly become very active on social media after a period of silence. Sometimes, she might even try to imply that there is someone else. A photo in a cafe with someone whose face is not visible, a story with a man's hand in the corner, a caption that says, "Some people are better left in the past." Small things that look normal to everyone else, but are actually messages directed at one person, you. But here is the important part. She is not necessarily doing this because she is happy. She is doing this because she wants a reaction. She wants to see if you will text, if you will get jealous, if you will ask who that person is, if you will react to her stories again, if you will show that you still care. Because a reaction means she still has emotional influence over you. Silence, on the other hand, means she no longer controls how you feel or what you do. This stage is all about control and attention. Before, she didn't have to try to get your attention. She already had it. Now, she is not sure anymore. And when people feel like they are losing someone's attention, they often try to get it back indirectly instead of directly. So, the psychological games begin, not always with bad intentions, but with a clear goal to see if you are still watching, to see if you still care, to see if she can still affect your emotions. If you react emotionally, get jealous, send long messages, or suddenly start chasing again, then the dynamic goes back to what it was before. But if you stay calm, respectful, and emotionally controlled, something very different happens. She starts realizing that this time, you are really different. You are not playing the same role anymore, and that realization leads to the next stage. But the problem now is that your reaction never comes. No jealousy, no anger, no long messages, no questions, no blame, no emotional reaction at all. Just silence. And silence sometimes is harsher than 1,000 words, because words, even angry words, still mean there is emotion, still mean there is attachment, still mean you care enough to react. But silence feels like distance, silence feels like calm, silence feels like someone who is no longer emotionally involved the same way. At this stage, she may have already tried indirect messages, social media posts, casual conversations, or small attempts to get your attention. And when none of that creates a strong reaction from you, something very uncomfortable starts to happen in her mind. She starts to feel like she is no longer important in your emotional world. Before, she could make you angry, she could make you jealous, she could make you happy, she could make you sad, she could make you react. Now, she can't make you do anything, and this feeling is very heavy because emotional influence is a form of power. When someone can change your mood, your behavior, your decisions, they feel important in your life. But when their actions create no visible reaction, they start to feel like they lost that influence. Your silence becomes crushing silence. Not because you are trying to punish her, but because silence forces people to face their own thoughts. When you argue with someone, they focus on the argument. When you explain, they focus on your words. When you react emotionally, they focus on your reaction. But when you are silent, they focus on themselves. They start asking harder questions. Why is he so calm? Why doesn't he react anymore? Did he really move on? Did I really lose him? Why doesn't he fight for me like before? And this is where silence becomes powerful. Not loud power, not aggressive power, but quiet, uncomfortable, psychological power. Because now she is not fighting with you. She is fighting with her own thoughts. And the human mind does not like unanswered questions. It does not like unfinished stories. It does not like silence where there used to be attention, words, and emotions. So the silence becomes heavy, then uncomfortable, then scary. Because silence sometimes sends one message louder than any sentence ever could. I am no longer the man you used to control. This is where the real fear begins. Not the fear of a fight, not the fear of distance, not the fear of silence for a few days, but the fear that you might never come back. Up until this stage, a part of her still believed that this was temporary, that eventually you would text, call, react, or return the way you always did before. She believed that no matter how far things went, there was always a way back, because there was always a version of you that couldn't stay away for too long. But now, too much time has passed, too much silence, too much distance, too much calm from your side. And slowly, the idea starts forming in her mind. This time, he might be gone for real? This thought is heavy, because it changes everything. Now it is no longer about ego, no longer about who texted first, no longer about who was right and who was wrong. Now it becomes about loss. The possible loss of a person who was once part of her daily life. The possible loss of a man who was patient with her. The possible loss of someone who knew her closely. The possible loss of someone who stayed when others would have left. And when people feel that they are about to lose something permanently, they often do something they were avoiding for a long time. They become honest. This is usually the stage where she finally writes a real message, not a casual, hey, not a random question, not a reaction to a story, a real message. Maybe she writes, I'm sorry. I know I made mistakes. I've been thinking a lot. I didn't think things would end like this. I miss talking to you. This message is different from the others because this time it is not about curiosity or ego. This time it is about fear of losing you completely. But here is the important part. By this stage, you are not the same man anymore. You are calmer, you are quieter, you are less emotional, you are less reactive, you are more distant. So when she sends that message, she is not sure what she will get back. Maybe you don't reply immediately. Maybe you reply hours later. Maybe the reply is short, calm, polite, but not emotional like before. And this is the moment where she realizes something very important. You didn't just disappear for a while. You changed. You are not reacting the same way, not talking the same way, not chasing the same way, not explaining the same way. And in that moment, she understands a hard truth. She was not only afraid of losing you, she was afraid of losing the version of you that loved her more than himself. And now, she is not sure that version still exists. And somewhere else, far from all this overthinking, silence, and emotional chaos, you wake up one day and realize something strange. The pain is gone, not completely in one moment, not like a dramatic movie scene, but quietly, slowly, almost without you noticing. One day, you wake up and you don't feel that heavy feeling in your chest anymore. You don't check your phone first thing in the morning. You don't overthink old conversations before you sleep. You don't imagine what you would say if she texted. You don't replay old memories the same way anymore. You just wake up and start your day. You realize you are no longer waiting for a message. You are no longer waiting for an apology. You are no longer waiting for closure. And most importantly, you are no longer waiting for her. You became calm. Not the fake calm where someone pretends not to care, but real calm. The calm that comes after you accept everything, understand everything, and finally let go of the emotional dependency you once had. This is what psychology calls emotional independence. Emotional independence does not mean you never loved. It does not mean you never cared. It does not mean the relationship meant nothing. It means your happiness is no longer controlled by someone else's messages, attention, mood, or presence. It means you don't feel empty when someone leaves, and you don't feel complete only when someone stays. It means you can love someone, care about someone, but still be completely okay on your own. And this is the stage where the biggest shift happens, not in her life, but in yours. Because at the beginning of the story, you were afraid to lose her. Then you were sad. Then you were silent. Then you were distant. Then you were healing. And now you are free. Free from waiting, free from chasing, free from overthinking, free from trying to fix everything alone, free from needing someone to choose you in order to feel valuable. And the irony of everything is this. This is usually the moment when people start respecting you more, when they feel your absence more, when they realize your value more, when they sometimes try to come back, but by that time, something inside you has already changed. You are not driven by fear anymore, not driven by loneliness, not driven by the need to be chosen. You are driven by peace. And this is the final stage. Not her final stage, yours. Because the real victory was never getting her back. The real victory was getting yourself back. In the end, the real victory is not seeing her regret what she did. The real victory is not seeing her come back. The real victory is not proving that you were right and she was wrong. The real victory is the moment you look at yourself one day and realize, I survived. You survived the attachment. You survived the waiting. You survived the overthinking. You survived the feeling that you were not enough. You survived loving someone more than they valued you. And most importantly, you survived the version of yourself that was ready to lose everything just to not lose one person. Because sometimes the most dangerous thing in relationships is not losing the other person. It is losing yourself while trying to keep them. Losing your pride, losing your peace, losing your time, losing your focus, losing your self-respect, slowly, quietly, without even noticing, until one day you don't recognize yourself anymore. That is why walking away is sometimes not weakness. Silence is not always surrender. Distance is not always giving up. Sometimes walking away is self-respect. Sometimes silence is dignity. Sometimes distance is survival. People often think the strong man is the one who fights for the relationship no matter what. But that is not always true. The strong man is the one who knows when to fight and when to walk away. The strong man is the one who can love deeply but still leave when he is no longer respected. The strong man is the one who does not beg to be chosen, because the right place for you in someone's life is never something you have to fight for every day. And sometimes the best response to betrayal is not revenge, not long messages, not explaining, not trying to make them feel guilty. Sometimes the best response is disappearance. You disappear from the argument, you disappear from the drama, you disappear from the place where you are not valued. And while they are trying to understand why you left, you are somewhere else, rebuilding yourself, rebuilding your life, and becoming someone who will never again beg for love, attention, or respect. So in the end, remember this one sentence: the real victory is not that they regret losing you. The real victory is that you never lose yourself again.